the version 3.7 livestream, we're finally introduced to the climax of the entire version and one of the more anticipated characters in Cyrene. Along with 2 free 5 stars given for you and a whole new game mode, it's looking to be quite an interesting version finale. But in today's video, our focus will be on Cyrene and the ridiculous options for rerun batters. Is Cyrene worth it, or should you be skipping her for someone else, or heck, should you just save for 4.0? That is what we'll be covering for today. And hey, if you're looking to get these new characters and you're short on pulls, Loot Bar's got you covered. And here's a quick shout out. Now I know you're tired of ads as well, but I do think this could help you out a bunch, and I won't make it too long, just 30 seconds of your time. Loot Bar's simple. It provides cheaper prices for various top-ups, including unique ones like a Cyrene guaranteed bundle right now, and they even have a version limited ordinary shard deal that usually costs $100, but it's just 80 now. If you're not one to drop big purchases, Loot Bar's got you covered with the express supply pass for slightly cheaper too. I feel like a housewife sharing discount tips in Walmart. Best part being there's no longer required, just your UID and server. Complete the payment and you see the resources you purchase in your account within 5 minutes. Plus, as you can tell by the reviews, they are quite positive. If there are any safety concerns, well, Loot Bar's also got great reviews even on Trustpilot. And well, I've had zero issues myself, so I find it more trustworthy than that. Reviews my link in the description right now. You can even obtain a 10% discount coupon as newcomers. It helped me out a bunch, and no pressure here, is totally up to you. I'd appreciate it though. Now then, back to the video. We'll jump right into Cyrene now. She's a 5-star remembrance path of the ice element. And long story short, she is a general buffer for mainly the Chrysos heirs. This comes with its own pros and cons, which we will cover later on. We'll start with understanding her kit a bit first. Firstly, Cyrene's own talent and traits provides her team with damage increase just by being on field. That is pretty much just free value, no gimmick to it. Her skill creates a zone, which also provides her with 3 out charges as shown by the number beside her icon. Within this zone, allies will be able to deal an additional instance of true damage when they deal damage. The multipliers of the true damage look to be about 25% of your damage based on what's shown on the live stream, which is pretty good. Her technique creates the same zone as her skill at the start of battle, so you don't have to outspeed your whole team and use it manually, which is pretty common. Now then, for Cyrene's biggest value, her talent allows her to gain 1 ult charge at the start of other allies' turn. You need a massive 24 ult charges in total to activate her ultimate, but once you do, she will only take 12 charges for her next ultimate. Speaking of her ultimate, it summons Cyrene's Memo Sprite, which is basically herself. The first time you do this in battle, all allies will immediately gain their ultimate, regardless of cost, which is busted for someone like Castorice or Phainon with non-energy ults. After that, you can target an ally with Cyrene's Memo Sprite. Whoever you target will obtain a buff, but there is a twist. If you target a non-Chrysos heir ally, they simply gain a damage increase buff, which is still handy. If you target a Chrysos heir though, every different heir will obtain different buffs that is unique to only themselves. There are a total of 14 Chrysos heirs and each of them have their own unique buff effects, which makes Cyrene easily the most convoluted character given the sheer amount of text and functionality she has with different allies. You can repeatedly buff one of the same allies across the whole game with every single one of your following ultimates, or you can target different allies depending on their own unique effect. Allies that has been buffed will have this heart symbol on top of their icon. A few examples we are shown when using Cyrene's buff on Chrysos heirs are with, say, Castorice. In the case of Castorice, once you give her buff, she can now go over her ult charges 100% limit. All excess charges will be converted into extra damage increase when Castorice's dragon detonates. Now, in the case of Phainon, if he has Cyrene's buff, he will deal more damage and he will no longer leave his ultimate state even after the usual action count. So yeah, he'll be permanently in this state unless if he dies, of course. And we're not even done yet. Once you buff all the allies you need with Cyrene, you can choose to use a basic attack instead, which deals damage to all enemies. And yeah, it does pretty solid damage too. And with that said, we've covered all about Cyrene that we are told from the live stream. From there, we can end on a conclusion. Cyrene is mainly a general buffer for every Chrysos heir in the game. She'll fit in perfectly in Chrysos heir related teams like Castorice, Evernight Hyacine, Phainon, Cyrene, or any teams with Tribbie in there. Any Mydei teams as well would definitely work too. So yep, she is quite the versatile character, but it's only for Chrysos heir though. She provides different buffs to each of these teams, but the overarching question is still, is Cyrene good enough for you to replace a character from these teams? For example, if you're already running Castorice, Evernight, Tribbie, and Hyacine as a team, how big is Cyrene's value in that team for you to say, replace the E1 Tribbie? Is that even worth it though? To answer that question, we'll have to take a look at Cyrene's pros and cons. For pros, she's very versatile for Chrysos heirs, making it actually quite easy for especially players with not too big of a character pool for you to have a team ready. Pick up Cyrene and free up some the useful supports like RMC or Tribbie for another team. Now that is assuming you already have a Chrysos Air team ready for Cyrene to be part of. Secondly, she has an array of readily available damage boosts just by being on the field, and she can do decent damage as a supportive character too. Now her cons, however, are that she needs quite the long time to activate, especially on the first ultimate usage. 24 ult charges for Cyrene to activate her first ult means that you'll be spending a good portion of your first cycle just getting her ult ready. There's a few ways to get ult charges, but it's not going to be instantaneous. The way you can obtain ult charges gets easier or harder depending on the team she is in and the allies she has. For meta players that only wants the fastest and most efficient clears, this can come as a huge negative. But for the more casual players, it doesn't matter as much because while you take longer in the first cycle to get her first ultimate, down the line she will feel a lot more smooth. For newer players though, the extra time needed at the start may spell issues with clear time, but that will only be the case with non-complete builds and teams. The other big con with her is that while she is versatile, she is really limited to only Chrysos Air teams. Like sure, you can force non-air teams, but her value will drop significantly. The simple issue here is that we don't know if Hoya will ever add another Chrysos Air in the future, in a whole different planet with a different backstory, right? That seems far-fetched for it to happen, and if that's the case, it means Cyrene will have quite the low versatility in the coming versions. And we're already at the end of this one. With all that considered, to answer the question, should you pull Cyrene? My personal answer is absolutely yes if you just love Cyrene and all the crazy special effects and animation she brings. That is always the best answer. Play for your own fun, man. For pure meta talk though, you should either A, go for potential Eidolons that solves her slow activation issue, which does cost more pulls and is absolutely worth it if you do get them because it is strong. Or B, you can skip her entirely and save for version 4, with whatever new combat gimmick they will push in the new version. Based on experience, the main combat gimmick they will focus on is always the stronger ones. Think about the Remembrance Path, think about Remember Twice for this version. This does make saving pulls now a very valid option since the new version's only on the horizon. Not to mention, if Hoyo does decide to release someone incredibly great with Cyrene in the future, a rerun is most certainly going to happen, and we can consider our options then. And finally, for newer players, it will definitely depend on what you have in your account. Cyrene is a support character, which is the second most important role after Sustain for early game, where you're trying to get your first few teams ready. But she's only very valuable if you're running Chrysos Air teams though. So I do actually recommend going for her if you have, say, a Mydei and a Castorice team that both needs the Tribbie. Cyrene becomes a great solution for you to alleviate Tribbie's usage and significantly boost clear time overall since your weaker Link team will now be solved. Cyrene will be able to pull her weight. However, if you're in no rush, I'd still recommend waiting for version 4, where newer and perhaps stronger archetypes gets introduced altogether. This is going to be the main debate you'll find with Cyrene. While her kits seem pretty strong, it does seem like she arrived too late, with version 4 coming and most version 3 teams already perfectly functionable. A lot of players would opt to just stick with what they got now, since it functions anyway, and save for the new archetype in a newer version. Let me know what you think about that, man, in the comments down below, because it's an interesting topic. And finally, to answer the question of if Cyrene is a better replacement for all of the existing Chrysos Air teams so that you could pull her and replace someone, the answer to that will have to wait till official kit reveal since she does provide different buffs to different airs. But I'll say though, rumor has it Cyrene can match the strength of most Chrysos Air teams. If you do replace one of them with Cyrene, she actually does slightly better for some and can do even better with Eidolons involved. Do note that all of these are just my opinions and the best answer stays as pulling for whoever your heart truly loves to play with. I think I've been fairly objective so far. To let me know of your opinions in the comments though. With Cyrene out the way, we still have more problems, which is the massive gauntlet of rerun characters. Since Cyrene buffs Chrysos Air, it is no wonder we have 6 Chrysos Airs as reruns. Like god. I will say right now, the best option is to pull for whichever character that you're missing to complete a certain team you're trying to build, especially for supportive characters. Now the second best option in my opinion is to skip everything and just save for version 4 for the newer and stronger stuff. Though who knows, maybe Hoyo would just decide to stop releasing OP units for the next version, or maybe they'll just release a version where it buffs previous playstyles. In the end, who knows what's gonna happen in the future, but based on pattern though, usually newer version means newer archetype that's significantly stronger. We'll have to see what happens. We'll go through each of the reruns anyway and hopefully it'll help you out though. Firstly, in phase 1, we see Hyacine, Castorice, and Tribbie as the reruns. This is the killer rerun because all 3 of them hold very high value for various teams. To start with Hyacine, she is in my opinion the most crucial support for HP change teams. Her very consistent healing and Melbo's Prime mechanics serves as the perfect sustain and support needed for Castorice to charge her out quickly. It helps Mydei with a constant HP change. It helps Evernight for her crit damage buff, the more remembrance character there is on the team, and much else. Hyacine is a perfect package for all of these recent HP based characters, and overall, she is one of the best, if not the best healer in the game in terms of sustainability, crushing the top tiers through every game mode. I actually recommend prioritizing Hyacine over any other banner if you are missing good sustains or if you're mainly a Castorice player. You do gain much more consistent healing with Hyacine, which means way better ult charges for Castorice, and it is immediately more impactful and improves your clear time. And yep, overall, you'll also have a way easier time with survival in any game modes for any teams. But if you already have enough sustains and you're clearing things fine, waiting for 4.0 is still valid. Next up, we have Castorice. She's a pretty straightforward one. Is the character with one of the highest and one of the most consistent damage. Her capabilities are already top tier in every game mode at low investments, but the moment you unlock her E2, her performance sees a huge increase. However, you do need E2 for that, so yeah, Castorice is not quite the highest priority for me with the cost considered, but it is most certainly worth it if you play Castorice a bunch. For players that don't own Castorice at all, this is the best time to pick her up if you're missing a reliable damage dealer, provided you own a good team for her to function. That, and if you've already come into terms with having less resources coming into version 4. It is still a valid idea. I don't think Castorice will ever get power crept that quickly, so getting a version 3 team set up when you don't even have a single one or you have not the strongest ones is still a good idea coming into version 4. We mentioned that skipping Cyrene to prepare for version 4 is an option, but honestly that is only valid if you already have functioning version 3 teams, and Cyrene more just acts like a replacement for an already existing team, right? So if you don't even got a strong team that you can rely on, Castorice is 100% for her to be the backbone of your account. And finally, we have Tribbie. This is actually my top recommended character to go for in general, but it's also only if you snag an E1 though. Tribbie's E1, even without her own light cone, provides insane damage buffs and true damage application from her E1, similar to Cyrene's skills effect. With Tribbie though, her buffs from her kit are generally useful for nearly any team, which is the main reason why I recommend going for her if you are to spend pulls in general. Being able to hold Dance 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 2 is a huge plus for faster clears. It's most certainly worth it. Coming up with phase 2, we see Phainon, Cipher, and Mydei. To start with Phainon, he is also one of the strongest damage dealer in the game, but the one issue with him is that he's not exactly the fastest. You see, his ult has a fixed speed, which just means he can only take a certain number of actions per cycle. At the same time, none of his ally can help him get more turns since they are separated from his ultimate. This doesn't make him bad at all since he can still clear everything absolutely fine, but well, given if he has a solid team, which is the similar case with most other DPS. Pulling Phainon to use with Cyrene or vice versa is certainly a valid consideration, but Phainon's issue persists even with Cyrene's buff, where he has a fixed speed during his ultimate, which may cause you to fall out of a cycle. But while the old saying goes, if you just want to play with what you love, go for it. I will add that Phainon's E2 makes his performance shoot way up, very similar to how Castorice is too, but as usual, it takes 2 duplicates, hence more cost. I recommend only going for it if you already have E1 and you're just one step away, or if you just have a lot of pulls to burn somehow. Next up though, we have Cipher. Cipher is a simple one. She's a generally useful support for actually anybody. Kind of similar to Tribbie. Her best team functionally will be when she's paired with Acheron, since Cipher has very consistent debuff application, especially with her signature light cone. She can be used with a lot of other damage dealers like even Castorice, Fei Xiao, a dot team, or say if you want to use her with Phainon, you technically could. She won't be beating the best ideal options for each of these teams, but she will definitely work. In the end, for Cipher, I think you should pull it if you need more versatility in your team, or simply save for version 4. Finally, we have Mydei. Mydei is not the strongest damage dealer compared to the other two in the reruns, but he is certainly the one with the most survivability. He's straight up unkillable, but in exchange of near immortality and free revives, he does have issues with lower damage ceiling compared to his peers, and one of his bigger issues as well is when he is against multiple enemies like in Pure Fiction, as he is more of a 3-target attacker. If you get his E1 though, he does get much better AoE capabilities, and it's definitely considerable if you like Mydei. Now Cyrene could technically buff Mydei to some insane level, but chances are that's not gonna happen. It's still gonna be a good buff though. In the end, being frank, if you're all about efficiency and meta, Mydei is not exactly the top choice for damage dealer, but he's certainly not the worst one. You can still count on him to clear nearly every game mode. Maybe he'll struggle a bit in Pure Fiction though. And that will be all for this very long script. There are a lot of reruns, a lot of interesting discussions to be had with Cyrene after all. She is the one with the most text in her kit easily out of anyone in the game, and it's probably one of the most epic animations and effects with her too. Do let me know what you think of Cyrene. Who are you going to be pulling for? And yep, feel free to have a discussion in the comment section down below, but I do hope you keep it civil if I somehow offended anybody. And with that, till next time, and take care.